SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
A warm good morning to all of you, and welcome to the SANDHAN lecture today. Actually, the topic which I would like to deliver today is about memorandums and resolutions. Memorandums and resolutions, actually, they are the topics which the students find difficult in elaborating, in expressing, because it requires a creative gist and a thought also, depending on the different situations, topics on which it has to be drafted. It varies, the subject varies, the topic varies, and accordingly the students have to draft this particular memorandums and resolutions. So I would begin first with the memorandum. It's very difficult to suffice the two topics simultaneously within this short period of just 1 hour, because it requires 2 or more practice, 2 and more or 3 lectures to make a practice of these memorandums. Hence, it is very difficult to suffice, but still I will make a humble effort to give the gist of what are memorandums, how to draft memorandums in the first part, and the second part we will talk about the resolutions, how the resolutions are, what resolutions are, how they are drafted, which are the things to be taken into consideration, so on and so forth. So, let us begin our topic. To start with, first, memorandums. What are memorandums? Generally, we are afraid with this particular term. Sometimes the students feel that it is a very something very legal term, or something very to be used in a very strict sense of official language, or sometimes we feel that it is very awkward to draft. These are the general misconceptions which we can find among the students, and as such we can say that the students themselves are afraid of this particular term, memorandums. But if we understand the concept, the ideologies, and the structure, how it has to be drafted, yes, with the help of some creative knowledge of English, a student can easily draft these memorandums, because they are, once they become an officer, or they are employed in an office, they are supposed to draft these memorandums in one way or the other. Let us come to the first point. The topic is, what are memorandums? A memorandum is a short message from one person to another. Let us talk about a short message. A message which an officer passes to another officer or a subordinate through official drafting can be termed as a memorandum. In short, it is also referred as memos. In a business organization, or even in an institution. Memos have no salutation. The memos have no salutation, as well as it has no signature at the end of the memo. So that is the first thing we have to take into consideration, that generally memorandums are a very simple format of letters. I would say letters, yes, because it conveys a message in the strict sense of the term. Now, before going in depth about the memorandums, let us see what is the origin of memorandum, or how the word memorandum came into existence. A memorandum was derived from the Latin verbal phrase memorandum est, and the gerundive form of the verb memoro. It means it came from the Latin. The root word is Latin, and it means to mention, to call, to mind, and we can say that to recall or recount, or in other words, in simple words, if it means it must be remembered, something that has to be remembered. It has a sense of compulsion. This word memorandum has a sense of compulsion to take the matter seriously, to mind. It is therefore a note, a document, or other communication. It is therefore that helps the memory by recording the events. It is a recording of the events or observations which you find in the form of a letter, and hence we can say that it is something that has to be remembered, must be remembered in the various forms, or in various forms that you receive, the recipient receives it. If we go for the different types of memos, let us talk about which types of memos can be drafted. Memo, as I said earlier, it varies from subject to subject. It varies from topic to topic. It varies from situation to situation. And as the situation varies, as the topic varies, as the situation, the events vary, the memos also vary accordingly. Hence, as I once again mentioned earlier, that a topic, the student should have a sense of understanding of the situation, of the topic, and accordingly he can draft or adjust his writings of the memos. To list the types of memos, I would say memorandums of agreement. There are different types of memorandum: memorandum of agreement, memorandum of association, memorandum of announcement, memorandum of understanding, that is called MOU, memorandum of agreement, also in a way that MOU, directive memorandum, something with a memorandum that directs something, and as well as the private placement of memorandums. Private placements of memorandums are also, these are just a few examples. It cannot be an exhaustive or complete one, but these are some of the examples which we can take into consideration, that these are the types and events of memorandums we can find over here. Next topic is defining memos. How can we define memos? As I said earlier, it is a matter to be remembered compulsorily. It is a matter to be taken into mind compulsorily. It is a matter that has to be followed, recalled, or recounted with accountability. So that is what memo is about. Memos are company internal letters. They are the company internal letters. We can say that what are memos? So internal letters, a company internal letters, and organization internal letters, which one institutional head or the section head passes to its other subordinates or the fellow colleagues, or even to an individual also. It can be provided, or it can be handed over so that it can take into consideration. Memos are more formal. They are more formal than emails, and they are less formal than business letters. That is to say, more formal than emails. It should be more formal insofar as the drafting is concerned. It has to be more formal than emails and less formal than the business letters. In business letters, it is we write it in a more formal manner. We are more conscious of the salutations, attributes, and this and that. But then here, there is no such sort of worry. But still, it has to be in a more formal than business, but and less formal than the business letters. So it should be somewhere put into a mediocre place. Now, if we come into another topic, talk about the memos, it is originally used in hard copies, but they are also processed electronically. It is often used in hard copies. It is handed over in hard copy with the signature. Signature of the recipient. Those who receives it, and but now it is also been sent electronically. Now, as I said earlier, memos, as the subject of the memo vary, the length of the memo also varies from. For example, short memos serve as inter or intra-office communication. Long memos may serve as reports as well. It serves as reports. For example, so we can say that a short memory or short memos serve as a small messages or messages that has to be taken considered or seriously, and long memos can be considered as reports. So that is the about the concept of the memos. Now let us talk about the purposes of memo. Why memos are drafted, or what is the aims behind drafting a memo? Let us come to the first point. That is, memos are drafted for inquiry of certain matters, certain procedures, certain information, certain events. So in that context, the memos can be drafted. It can also be drafted in the sense to inform a person or a group of persons or the colleagues or the entire circle about some incident, some matter, some regulations, some actions that has to be taken in the common interest. Memos can also be in the form of a report. That means reporting something. It can also be in the form of reminding the recipient. As I said earlier, memos can be addressed or to one person, as well as it can be addressed to a group as well. The other purpose of memo is to transmit a message, transmit an information, transmit a important matter to the other colleagues or to the other persons. And finally, now last but not the least, it also means to promote a goodwill. It means promote the goodwill over there. Now, when we talk about the basic parts of the memo, now what what are the basic parts that are really needed to form a memo. So first is the to whom the memo is addressed to, the name of the person to whom the memo is written, that comes first. Then follows from whom it is sent, that comes the second. The third is the date. Fourth is the subject. Fifth is the body of the memorandum, that the entire body, that means the entire message, or the, we can say, the heart of the memorandum comes in the body of the memorandum, and it should be single spaced. It should be drafted as single spaced. Then we can talk about the reference initials that comes afterwards. Now if we talk about the essentials in drafting a memo, which are the essentials of drafting a memo, let us talk about that. Which are the necessary things that we should keep in mind while drafting a memo? The first comes clarity. That means clear. The memo should be very clear in your expressions of ideas, in your expression of thoughts, in your expression of your ideologies. That has to be mentioned in the memo. The second point is concise. That means the brevity should also be taken into consideration while drafting a memo. That means it should not be very long, it should not be very narrative, it should not be very elaborate, but then it should be very concise. Brevity is also the essential thing that we should keep in mind while drafting a memo. The third point is correctness. Very correct, accuracy, that we mean. I mean by correct means accuracy. It should be very correct, means the accuracy of drafting. A person who knows the language well, to use the language well, only he can use the correct language, and the assignment of writing a memorandum should go to such person who can put the things in the right word, the right place, and the right sentence in the right order. That means. So next point is concreteness. What do you mean by concreteness? Concreteness means authenticity, responsibility. Whatever you state, it should be very realistic, very factual, very truth. That means truth, factualness, reality should be very much evident from your memorandum. That's point. Next point is complete. Now when we talk about complete means it should be complete in all the manner. It should be complete in the structure, in the meaning, in the context, as well as in the entire as a whole. We can say the memorandum, when you read the memorandum, you should feel a sense of completeness, a sense of wholesomeness, a sense of we can say a comprehensive idea of completeness should be there. There should not be something that has been left behind, or something that you cannot understand, something that you are fumbled, or confusion. Feeling of confusion should not be there in that way. Next is you should essential last is the correct punctuation and spelling. What happens is that many a times the students are not able to spell correctly. Sometimes just one error in the spelling can change the entire meaning of the word as well as also the sentence. Hence, it's very essential for the students when drafting the memorandum, that he should spell it correctly as well as the correct usages of punctuation. That means a student should be well aware where to put about the using. He should be well aware about the utility of the punctuation, how to use the punctuation, where to use the punctuation, and what sort of punctuation has to be used at which point. That has to be very, very clear in the mind of the memorandum of the student. The next point I would like to talk about is the advantages of memos. Generally, we feel as a student or as a teacher, why these memos are there in the institutions or in the companies or in the industries or in the office. We can say there are some advantages of these memos. That is, the memos are quick. It is instant. For example, if I feel like transmitting a message to one person to another or to a group, I would ask my colleague or my subordinate to draft a memo and just pass it immediately. Now, as electronically, as I said earlier it was often used in hard copies, but now it can also be used in electronic way. That is to say, passing by mail, sending a mail to all the colleagues who are associated or connected with the email IDs. That can also be done in the recent or in the modern age with advancement of our technologies. That is quite possible, and it is rampant even in the metro cities. Then it is inexpensive. There's not much expense of drafting or posting or putting the stamp or nothing like that. Just write, scribble, pass the message, and hand over it to the recipient. Next, it is convenient. It is very convenient in the sense that, as I said, often it was done by hard copies, but then now with the use of internet and as internet facility, through emails, things or with the fax. It can be also be sent to convenient for sending the memos to the recipient very easily. And finally, last again but not the least, because it is it proves to be a written record. Once you draft a memo, once you draft an information, it becomes a written evidence for you in your office and for your staff. So that are the advantages in brief. There are many advantages other than this also, but due to the constraints of time, we are not able to express it in correct manner, or in an elaborate manner, I mean to say that. Confirm whether the memo. Now, what does it mean? When we draft a memo, we should be very clear about certain aspects that we should confirm before handing or before making a final draft of the memo. We should confirm about the certain things. I said these are only limited points that I have used over here. There can be many, but as I said earlier, as this particular topic, memorandum and this resolutions, require more than 2 or 3 lectures to be very elaborate, to very expressive, to be used. Due to the constraint of time, we cannot put all the things over here, but we can put certain things to your notice or to your mind over here. We should, when you write a memo, you should confirm that the purpose of the memo is clear or not, it is evident or not, it is sure or not. That should be very much evident, that should be very much perfect in your mind. That is to say, the aim to catch the attraction and attention of the reader, and that effectiveness should be there in that particular message. The next point is about the memo should be simple and to the point. When we draft a memo, we should stick to the point. We should not be very going around the bush. We should be very clear cut, very strict to the point about expressing the matter, so that it can reach directly to the mind of the receiver or the reader. We should use a very courteous tone. That the language that is used in the memorandum should be very polite and it should be courteous. And as you know, the students of commerce are branded with